In the beginning, only the divine parents Apsû and Tiamat and their son Mummu existed. Together they formed one mass. The parents would go on to create the brother-sister pair named Lahmu and Lahamu. They then brought forth the brother-sister pair Anshar and Kishar, who surpassed their older siblings. Many years later, Anshar and Kishar had a son they named Anu. Anu would go on to have a son named Nudmmud, who was a god of great strength and wisdom. He would become a god in which none could rival and became master of the rest. Eventually the older gods, unable to rest, became annoyed at the noise of the younger gods. After many peaceful attempts to quiet them, Apsu and Mummu created a plan to kill off the younger gods. However, when they told the plan to Tiamat, she was overcome with grief and stated, "Why should we destroy that which we ourselves brought forth? Their way is indeed painful, but let us take it good naturally." But Apsû was not swayed and stated, "I will destroy them and put an end to their way, that silence be established, then let us sleep." When the young gods found out about the plan, they began to panic, except for Nudmmud, who, upon hearing about the plan, created a magical ring around the gods to protect them. He then composed a holy incantation, recited it, and forced Apsû into a deep sleep. He then proceeded to take Apsû's supernatural radiance to possess his might and splendor, and then killed him. He imprisoned Mummu, and upon the slain corpse of the Divine Father he built a shrine, named after him, for the other gods to dwell in. There, Nudmmud and his wife Dimkina had their son Marduk, the wisest of the gods. The newfound peace was not to last, as a group of gods led by Kingu convinced Tiamat to have revenge for her fallen husband. Tiamat gave birth to 11 kinds of serpents and dragons and made Kingu her new husband. When the news of this reached Nudmmud, he was overcome with fear. When he regained his composure, he came up with a plan to take care of Tiamat, which ultimately failed. He then asked his son Anu to speak with Tiamat and try and calm her. Returning from her presence, Anu was terrified and asked to be relieved of the task. Nudmmud then sent for his son Marduk, who although young had proven himself to be strong and wise. Upon hearing the request, he agreed to take on the task as long as he would become the supreme and undisputed authority among the gods. Nudmmud, unable to fulfill this request on his own, sent for the other gods so that they could have a council. There the gods came up with a test to see if Marduk was truly strong enough to deal with the threat and become the supreme god. They set a garment in front of him and told him to destroy it and then restore it. Upon doing so, the other gods proclaimed him king of gods. Marduk proceeded to make a bow and an arrow, grabbed a club, and made a net in which he had the winds carry. Then, like a storm god, he created a lightning storm to precede him and a flood. He then mounted his storm chariot and set out to meet Tiamat. Upon his arrival, the rebel gods, save for Tiamat, were thrown into a fit of confusion. Marduk then challenged Tiamat to a duel. Tiamat, upon hearing the request, became enraged and frantic, but accepted the request. When it began, Tiamat opened her mouth to try and swallow Marduk whole, but he used his net to engulf her and had the winds keep her mouth open so he could shoot an arrow directly into her heart, killing her. The rebel gods tried to escape but were all imprisoned. Marduk then used his club to crack open Tiamat's skull. He proceeded to cut her arteries and have the north winds carry her blood south to out-of-the-way places. He then divided her into halves, one becoming the sky and the other the earth. He then created stations in the sky for the gods. He made stellar constellations to be used as calendars with their rising and falling, and gates for the sun to enter in the east and depart in the west. The rebel gods were forced to become servants, bringing the others food and such. Eventually the servant gods became overburdened and asked Marduk to release them from their servitude. He decided to create man to take their place as servants to gods. He decided to sacrifice Kingu to make this happen. Marduk's father, Nudmmud, severed Kingu's arteries and from his blood created humans. Marduk then divided the gods into two groups of 300, one in the sky and one on earth, and gave each their allotted tasks. The gods decided to show their gratitude to Marduk by building the city of Babylon and the great temple of Isluga in his honor.